In the ancient city of Damascus, where the desert winds carried tales of valor and treachery alike, lived a renowned blacksmith named Zahra Al-Hadidi. His forge was known throughout the kingdom for crafting the finest blades that could slice through armor like parchment. Farid worked alongside his son Tariq, who had inherited his father's steady hands and keen eye. Yet it was his daughter Zahra who possessed the true fire of their family's legacy. With midnight hair and eyes that sparkled like polished copper, Zahra had grown up amidst the heat and rhythm of the forge, learning its secrets while the city assumed she merely tended to household duties. Unknown to most, Farid had taught her the ancient techniques of Damascus steel, a knowledge usually reserved only for sons. Steel, like people, he would tell her, reveals its true strength only after passing through fire. The city prospered under the watchful eye of King Malik, whose palace stood atop the highest hill, its golden domes gleaming in the scorching sun. Malik was known for his sudden bursts of cruelty, tempered by periods of generosity, creating a kingdom where both loyalty and fear flourished in equal measure. The king's warriors relied heavily on Farid's weapons, which brought wealth and protection to the blacksmith's family. Their modest home near the central marketplace bustled with life and laughter, a sanctuary of love amid the city's political tensions. Zahra's mother had passed away years ago, leaving her to manage their household while secretly honing her craft in metallurgy during the quiet hours when the city slept. Her brother Tariq often marveled at her ability to spot imperfections in the steel that even their father missed. Fortune shifted one fateful morning when King Malik, disguised in common garments, wandered through the marketplace. Seeking respite from palace conspiracies, he found himself drawn to the rhythmic sounds of Farid's hammer. Standing unrecognized in the shadows of the forge, the king watched as Zahra stepped forward to demonstrate a technique to her brother, her movements precise and graceful, despite the brutality of the task. Her face, illuminated by the forge's glow, captivated the king instantly. Removing his disguise, Malik revealed himself, causing everyone to bow hastily. "I have found what I did not know I was seeking," he proclaimed, his eyes never leaving Zahra. "The fire that tempers the steel seems to burn within you as well." Zahra lowered her gaze, uncomfortable under his intense scrutiny, while Farid proudly introduced his children, unaware of the dangerous desire blooming in the king's heart. The following days brought unprecedented royal attention to the blacksmith's shop. Orders for weapons doubled, along with generous payment. Malik himself appeared frequently, ostensibly to check on his commissions, but truly to catch glimpses of Zahra. Soon his intentions became clear when he summoned Farid to the palace and declared his desire to make Zahra his fourth wife. "Your daughter will want for nothing," the king promised. "She will live among treasures that merchants cross oceans to obtain." Farid, trapped between loyalty to his sovereign and love for his daughter, requested time to consider this honor. Returning home with heavy steps, he shared the news with his children. Tariq saw opportunity in the alliance, but Zahra felt only dread. "Father," she whispered, "a gilded cage remains a cage. My hands were made for creation, not idle luxury." When Farid reluctantly delivered Zahra's refusal, the king's benevolence vanished like morning mist in the desert sun. "You forget yourself, blacksmith," Malik hissed. "What I desire, I obtain. If not freely given, then taken." By dawn, royal guards surrounded their home, arresting both Farid and Tariq on fabricated charges of selling weapons to the kingdom's enemies. They were thrown into the palace dungeons, where even the sun feared to enter. Zahra, left alone, received the king's message: become his bride, or watch her family perish. The execution was scheduled for 7 days hence, enough time, Malik believed, to break her resistance. What the king failed to understand was that Damascus steel wasn't the only thing the Al-Hadidi family knew how to forge. They also forged resilience. Zahra knew pleading for mercy would prove futile against Malik's wounded pride. Instead, she approached the palace gates the next morning, requesting audience not as a supplicant but as an artisan. "Tell the king," she instructed the guards, that Zahra Al-Hadidi wishes to present him with a wedding gift of her own creation, a blade worthy of the greatest ruler Damascus has ever known. Her message, carrying the subtle implication of acceptance, reached Malik, whose vanity overcame his suspicion. He granted her limited access to her father's confiscated tools and a small forge within the palace grounds, under constant guard. "You have 6 days," he warned. "Create something that honors your king, and perhaps I will show mercy to your family before you become mine forever." Under watchful eyes, Zahra began her work, requesting specific materials that piqued the king's curiosity. She worked tirelessly, the rhythmic song of her hammer filling the palace courtyard from dawn until the stars emerged. Guards reported her unusual methods, how she incorporated strange powders into the steel, how she quenched the blade not in water, but in oils infused with herbs, whose scents filled the air with exotic promise. Malik, intrigued by reports of her dedication, occasionally observed from a distance, mistaking her intensity for passion directed toward him. What none could see was how Zahra whispered to the metal as she worked, infusing each strike with purpose beyond craftsmanship. Between hammer blows, she explored the palace, memorizing pathways, noting guard rotations, and identifying the weakest points in the dungeon's security. On the 5th night, Zahra requested an audience with the king to discuss the final details of her creation. Standing before Malik's throne, her hands still bearing the marks of her labor, she spoke with calculated confidence. "My king, the blade I create requires one final element, an ancient ritual performed at midnight under the new moon. The steel must cool gradually, while absorbing the essence of royal blood." Seeing Malik's immediate suspicion, she continued, "A mere 3 drops from your noble hand will ensure the weapon becomes bound to you alone, responding to your will as if alive." Malik, his judgment clouded by desire for both Zahra and the legendary weapon she described, agreed to meet her at the forge at midnight, alone as the ritual supposedly required. His advisors counseled against such folly, but Malik dismissed their concerns. What harm could one woman bring against a king in his own palace? When midnight arrived, Zahra waited by the forge, the nearly completed sword gleaming with unusual patterns across its surface. Malik arrived without guards as promised, his interest evident as he examined the extraordinary craftsmanship. "It is beautiful," he admitted, running his finger along the flat of the blade. "Almost as beautiful as its creator." Zahra bowed respectfully, presenting him with a small ceremonial knife. "3 drops of blood, my king, and the ritual begins." When Malik pricked his finger, Zahra caught the blood in a small bowl containing a powder she had prepared. The mixture began to smoke instantly, releasing a sweet, disorienting fragrance. "Breathe deeply, my king," she instructed. "The vapors must enter your lungs to bind the blade to your spirit." Malik, entranced by both the ceremony and Zahra's proximity, inhaled deeply and promptly collapsed as the sleeping draft took effect. Working quickly, Zahra used the keys she had taken from the king's belt to free her father and brother from their cells. The sleeping guard outside the dungeon had already fallen victim to a similar concoction she had offered as a strengthening tonic earlier that evening. United once more, the family made their way through the palace using the passages Zahra had mapped during her days of preparation. "The eastern gate has only 2 guards at this hour," she whispered as they moved through shadows, "and I've ensured they received wine laced with the same herbs that claimed the king." Farid gazed at his daughter with newfound respect, recognizing that her mind was as finely honed as any blade they had ever crafted. They reached the stables where horses waited, prepared by sympathetic servants who had suffered under Malik's cruelty and had been quietly cultivated as allies by Zahra's strategic kindnesses. As they rode into the desert night, Tariq looked back at the sleeping city. "What happens when he wakes? He will hunt us to the ends of the earth." Zahra smiled, the moonlight catching the determination in her eyes. "By dawn, Malik will find himself in a predicament of his own making. The sword I created bears unique markings that match designs I planted in the chambers of his most ambitious general. along with documents suggesting a coup. The sleeping draft will leave him confused about what truly happened tonight, and the evidence will point to betrayal from within. Farid shook his head in amazement. You have forged not just steel, but justice. Their path led toward the trading caravans of Persia, where Farid's reputation would secure them sanctuary and a new beginning. The story of how the blacksmith's daughter outwitted a king spread through whispers across desert camps and crowded marketplaces, eventually becoming legend. In years to come, the tale of Zahra Al-Hadidi, known as the Fire Within, would inspire countless daughters to recognize their own strength and ingenuity. And in Damascus, rulers learned to respect the will of those they sought to possess, remembering how a king's downfall had been crafted by hands as skilled in strategy as they were in steel. For true power, the story taught, comes not from authority imposed, but from the resilient spirit that, like the finest Damascus blade, becomes stronger with each trial by fire.